I learned quickly that that wasn't my charge. And so I moved up the rank to, you know, 4th and 5th and 7th and 8th grade, and I really enjoyed those grade levels, the older students, the more mature students. I felt like I was making a difference in their life in terms of what they were going to do after high school and those kinds of things. So I worked in different entities that allowed me to have experience with high school students. And so although I did not teach high school content to high school students, I was a chief administrative officer in a few schools where we had high school students. So I was able to grow my knowledge of graduation requirements, career and technical education certificates, and just what kids needed to do and be able to be successful out, you know, in the real world. And so that's how I got involved in high school.
So you were a teacher first, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What school did you teach at?
My very first school that I taught at was C.T. Jeanette Elementary. That was in Jefferson Parish. I was only there for 6 months before we got transferred. In Jefferson Parish, they would shift teachers from school to school after their very first year, especially if their first year was a partial year. And then I landed at Estelle Elementary, where I really gained my wings for teaching 4th and 5th grade students. I was there at Estelle Elementary with Jackie Donalidis, who it was a staple in St. Charles, in Jefferson Parish, for being a leader. At that school was the very first time I had an opportunity to create a dance team there. We even had special needs students on the dance team. I had a student in a wheelchair. And although she could not move her legs, she was able to create the words and arm movements for the dance team. So she was very much a part of what we did. That was the very first time the students were able to march in Mardi Gras parades, and it was just exciting for them and me because I was a new teacher at that time. And so, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Can you explain how it feels to be a high school principal?
I love being a high school principal. Being a high school principal really allows me to be able to influence high school students in what they will do moving forward. It is so important that we, as high school teachers and administrators and parents, that we're able to mold high school students, because their next step will be out into the real world. So my goal is that students will graduate high school with options, not only just go to college, but what doors will be open for them to take advantage of. In other words, in the work field, or am I preparing them to have certifications to get into jobs that they want to do in their future? And then if they want to go to college, then help them get into college. But my main goal is to see my high school kids graduate and have options for their future. So I love having that team. Yes, I would love to give tips. I believe that everyone can be an educator, whether they want to be an educator or not. And in every job that that students will have and careers that they'll have, there'll be an opportunity for everyone to teach. So I think it is extremely important to embrace education and teaching others. Even here at school, you can get a good background of what teaching looks and feels like, even when you're working with your partner in the classroom as a turn and talk, or you're teaching one of your peers something that they don't understand. That is a teaching opportunity. So the field of education needs teachers, and we need teachers of all different types of professions. Teachers that maybe have a business background, teachers that have a welding background, teachers that have English, math, science, and social studies, but also family and consumer science teachers, career and technical education teachers. So my advice is to start teaching now while you're in high school, each other, and build a love for that.
What are your greatest strength as a leader?
My strength as a leader, I'm a servant leader, and so I'll tell you a little bit about what that is for me. A servant leader means I want to be on the team, with the team, instead of just directing the team. And so as a servant leader, I love coming to ILT meetings, preparing for ILT meetings, and really talking and discussing with the teachers here about what we can do to improve in instructional strategies or techniques or classes or schedule tweaks or survey findings. I love being on the team. I'm not a person that is just going to say, hey, go do X, Y, Z. I'd rather serve in the capacity and see the difference firsthand. It means a lot to me to be able to say what I observed in a classroom today, or what I observed a teacher do today in a lesson, or maybe the feedback a student gave me early this morning about how they liked their teacher and what he was presenting. And so that's servant leadership, and that's definitely what type of leader I am.
So what is something that a student, oh wait, sorry. I just read it. I'm sorry, you go. I lost it.
What's your professional inspiration?
What inspires me? Is that what you're asking? Professionally? I'll tell you that in the early days, my mother was a teacher, as I talked about that, at St. Joseph in Gretna. She also worked with me on a daily basis to make sure I personally was understanding what was happening in classes. And this is like second, third, and fourth grade. And so, you know, when I got to high school, that was all good. But in my younger years, my mother was there that lended the opportunity for me to learn and to believe in myself. And that is just inspiring for me. So I try to take that knowledge and believe that students can do what they need to do to be successful, even if they don't believe in themselves to be successful. My charge, my inspiration is to let everyone know that they can do what they want to do. They just have to work very hard to do it. And so that's my inspiration, just making sure that kids believe in themselves and know how to get from point A to point B to be successful.
Do you believe if your mother wasn't a teacher, you'd have the same outlook on life and teaching as you would today?
I am not sure, to be honest with you. She was an integral role in getting me through elementary school. I also have family members, aunts, who were teachers in the field of education who kind of talked me into, why don't you be a teacher? Why don't you be a teacher? And I was like, no, I can't do that. And then it all came together, you know, teaching dancing at the local studio and feeling that intrinsic motivation that success feels like when you see kids perform at a mastery level. And so I knew at that time that was my charge, because it wasn't a job, it's what I needed to do. It was me. And
so what's your personal inspiration?
My personal inspiration, I think it's kind of dual-fold there. I want to be the best person that I can be, so that I can assist people to be the best that they can be. So my personal inspiration is to make sure that I wake up every day and that I see the positive in myself, so that when I come here, I'm positive to the faculty and staff on the team that I work with. It's super challenging for me to work with a person that's not as positive or not positive at all, or doesn't see the strength in someone. So I try to surround myself with people that believe that what we're doing is making a difference, is being successful. So my personal inspiration is to get up every morning, do the best that I can do, be happy with that each and every day.
Speaking of the team you work with, who are some of your favorite teachers you have worked with, or administrators?
In the past and today?
Yeah.
Oh, I have tons and tons of colleagues that I've worked on the team with. From the School Leadership Center in New Orleans, I know Dr. Brian Reinlinger was my mentor way back in the day, who taught me how to analyze data and dig deep and make sure my team is with me and not way far behind me. And so he was definitely an inspiration. But I've had tons of colleagues in my past that I've worked with that I've actually taken great strategies from and put them in my toolbox. Kimberly Williams from New Orleans, I've worked with her for an extremely long time, and she's just not only a great colleague but a great friend. I've worked with Miss Gray here at Ponchatoula High School down in the city, and her aspiration to grow students successfully is definitely something that excites me. And so we talk about instructional strategies and feedback to students and how to grow students often. Here at Ponchatoula, all of my admin team, my 6 assistant principals, work closely together, and they're an inspiration on a daily basis in their own way. You know, Dr. Sanders, always very professional, and he's the person that's going to say, we can do this. And then, you know, Mr. White, Coach White, he's the person that can say, Anna Faye, we need cameras here at this part of the school because this is what we're missing, that we, you know, want to ensure safety. We need this. So each admin brings their own specifics to the table. Ms. Atkins makes sure that we are grounded here at Ponchatoula in the Ponchatoula way. That's very important. And so each of the admin have a special quality and characteristic that they bring on the team that allows us to function in the way that we do. And I am very appreciative of those characteristics.
From Travis on YouTube, how has the growing student population at PHS affected the way PHS is growing? Did you expect it to have this many students when you became principal? Have you had to acclimate the student population size?
I'll tell you that in my entire 30 years, Ponchatoula High School is the largest school that I've ever had to run. 2,000 plus students is a huge challenge, but it is unique in itself. We're one of the top 5 largest schools in the state, and I'm proud about that because Ponchatoula does run smoothly. We have systems here where everybody's continuously informed, students are successful, teachers are successful, people want to be here at Ponchatoula, so I know there is a high level of success. Now, there's always areas to grow, but Ponchatoula is very successful, and it's been very large for quite some time. I know that Mr. Strickland, when he retired, shared with me that there was at one point 1,700 kids, 1,800, and then it just continued to grow. The beginning of this year, we were over 2,200. And so we've lost a few kids along the way. I think Ida has damaged some homes in the area, which has caused some folks to leave and potentially not return. But the Ponchatoula area is growing. As you drive down Highway 22, you can see new subdivisions coming up, and that means children in the home. I mean, how many subdivisions do you have where there are no kids? Not a lot. And so I'm expecting the population to continue to grow, and I'm expecting Tangipahoa Parish Schools, Melissa Stilley, to pay attention to that. Our district is pretty much on top of our growth. We talk about new spaces that we need, the new modular building, the permanent space that we just had built, and then we're also talking about the next phase, which is a potentially 2-story, 18-classroom building, which will be off by the bus shed area. So the district is talking about the expansion, the growth, and I think we're doing the best we can with space here.
Who are some of your favorite teachers who've taught you?
Who taught me? Oh, definitely. At St. Joseph, I had Miss Brock. She has since then passed over. But Miss Brock was my 4th grade teacher, and she was rough and tough. She was rough and tough. She used to say, "Come here," and I was like, "Oh no, please."
Her name was Miss Brock.
Miss
That
Brock.
sounds like a tough name.
She was extremely tough. I did have some integral teachers in high school who helped me get along. There are just so many. I was a type of student in school that went to school every day. I wasn't sick. I didn't skip. Even in college, it was very important for me to make sure that I know what's happening in the classes so that I can feel prepared. If I had to go into a class where I was not prepared, I don't think I'd feel comfortable.
Were you a good student or a bad student?
What do you mean by that?
were you like out of trouble, or like did you have a couple like
No.
attentions or?
No, I was a
Really?
quiet child. Yep.
Your
I
mother
was
was a teacher.
I was pretty quiet, and my challenge was learning. Actually, to be honest with you, even though I have a doctorate here today, and all through college I pretty much had A's. My elementary world, I struggled. That took some time to be able to learn and really comprehend,
Yeah, 'cause
and
you're a kid,
and
you're younger.
and read and understand. And so I was not a straight A student, not by a long shot. It took a lot of effort and reading and glasses and all those kinds of things. But once I figured out how I learn, then I had it. And then I was super successful. But man, figuring out how I needed to learn in my younger years, that was pretty tough.
Sure it was. On to a more pressing question. We all know you're a dancer. You versus Mr. Tim. Who do you think would win?
Say it again.
You versus Mr. Tim.
Oh, Mr. Tim's young, and he's definitely in the groove. I think in my younger years, we would have had a pretty close battle. Definitely, but I mean, Mr. Tim uses his whole body.
Oh,
In
even the floor. He'll get on the floor too if he needs to.
Very
I
expressive.
love Mr. Tim. Mr. Tim is a great inspiration here at Ponchatoula, and I know, in the morning.
He gets the kids motivated to come to school.
Absolutely.
Like, he is like the one thing I look at when I come to school, and if I'm having a bad day, he's like there with his music playing and just getting everybody
Yep.
in a good mood.
Just this morning, I unlocked the door, and it was dark outside, and I unlocked the door, and here's all this music playing. I
He's
was like,
already here.
wow, okay, got this going. And so you can always look for him for some motivation around holidays. It's nothing for him to come in with his Mardi Gras suit or his light up hat or the bunny outfit or Santa Claus.
Something to get you in a good mood.
Yeah, and so I think in my younger year we would have had a battle, but I'm quite a few years older than Mr. Tim, and so great guy though.
Absolutely.
What was the question? Are you a cat person or a dog person?
Oh, I love dogs.
Oh, we thought wrong.
Oh, I made the wrong call. Okay.
We thought wrong.
The wrong call.
Oh, I love dogs. I've had dogs all my life. Either my father had a hunting dog, which we didn't really get to play with when we were younger,
Yeah.
because hunting dogs have a purpose and that. But as I got older, I've always had a dog. I don't have a dog now, but I'm hoping to get one. So I hope my husband is listening to this. But my last dog that I had, his name was Forrest. And anybody want to know, guess why I named him Forrest?
He liked to run away.
You got it. He liked to
Yeah.
run. So
I'll change my dog's
we
name.
named him, we'd call him Forrest Gump because he liked to run. And but I loved the dog, and my son loved the dog. The dog grew up with he was a Jack Russell. And my husband would say that he was rather large. I thought he was just fine.
The bigger the better.
I like him.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So if you were to, let's say, move outside of Louisiana, where would you want to live?
Where would I want to live? Well, I'll tell you.
You can pick anywhere in the world.
Anywhere.
Anywhere in the
Anywhere.
world. Well, let me tell you. So last summer, I had the pleasure of visiting where my great-grandfather grew up in Italy, which was a little island off the southern tip of Sicily called Ustica. And so when I tell you the island is small, it is small and it's beautiful. It's in the middle of the ocean. The water around it is green and blue. It's like a mountain, and the residents there grow their own vegetation without having to water the fruits and vegetables, because the humidity from the ocean waters the fruits and vegetables, and it's just beautiful. Now, be reminded, there's not a whole bunch of air condition. It's an island, but I would love to be there, just understanding and being in that same place where my grandfather grew up is exciting. We definitely going to go back. It is.
What's your favorite song?
My favorite song.
We're always so curious about these answers because
Well, I'll just tell you this. I have tons of favorite songs, but I love the 70s and 80s music. So I'm not like a 2010 kind of person, but the 70s and 80s, oh yes, definitely.
Do you miss being in the classroom?
Absolutely. I love the opportunity to be with students, to push in and talk with students, or sub when a teacher's not there. I loved teaching students, and I absolutely miss that, because to me that's the fun of it. I'll tell you, when I was teaching at Estelle, I was teaching 5th grade math at that time, and so I love Halloween. That's one of my favorite holidays, just to play with the kids and dress up and that kind of fun stuff. And so my 5th grade math class, we didn't have calculators at that time because calculators wasn't a thing. And so we wanted to raise money to buy calculators. So we transformed my classroom into a haunted house for the kids, and we charged a quarter. And all the kids in the school came through, and we were able to purchase calculators for our math class. And so I love that idea of teaching kids and watching them grow and just being a part of their life. That's fun for me.
Having a place in that community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Back to the normal questions. Miss Kinchen, you cannot write. Who are some of your memorable students that have inspired you along your career?
Memorable students that have inspired me along through my career. If I could remember all the names of students who I was able to speak with, who have come up to me after they've graduated to say, thank you so much. It was so fun. We learned this, or this is what I'm doing now. You know, I have, to think about some of my dancing students, they've been with me for continuous years. They might have been 2 years old when they started, and when they graduated, they were 18, and I'm still in contact with them, and some are doctors and lawyers, and they have kids of their own. It is exciting that that they still reach out to me as, you know, Miss Faye, and so to list them all would be incredible. But I'll tell you that they loop me in on their bridal showers and baby showers, and children that are turning 2 and 3 and 5 and 7, and I go to those events, and I'm still Miss Faye. It's exciting. To list all of them would take an eternity, because I've had many students help me and to fulfill me along my journey of education.
Apart from students, and considering you have a very large say in it, what makes a good teacher?
What makes a good teacher? I think a great teacher and a good teacher are two separate things.
Yeah, definitely.
A great teacher is a teacher that really knows their students, and what I mean by that is knows not only what they like and what they dislike, but what they aspire to be, what their challenges might be because they've had that conversation, and to help that student work through that to believe in themselves to be successful. That's what makes a great teacher different from a good teacher. A good teacher is a teacher that's planning, looking at that curriculum, making the curriculum interesting. A great teacher is a teacher that has a relationship with their kids, and what I mean by that is examples of specifics about the child to be successful. Not just, oh, has a mom and dad, but nope, has a mom and dad, but really aspires to be this and believes that they can be if they do this, that, and this.
Yeah, students are here so often. It's good to have a safe haven and a good teacher.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Who is the most challenging group to deal with? Students, parents, or the teachers?
What do you mean by challenging?
Just most difficult
Yeah.
to deal with, like if a problem were to arise.
Or
with,
just anything in general.
Yeah.
But what's the most challenging group?
Most challenging group to deal with? I think they each have their own unique challenge, so I'll just talk about those. In teachers, the challenge of dealing with teachers is making sure that they believe that they can adjust to every kid that we have. And sometimes that's a challenge because sometimes teachers feel like, I don't know what to do. This is so challenging. Everybody has different needs and priorities. And although that's true, that's a challenge for me to make sure that teachers believe in themselves. With parents, sometimes it's a challenge because I'll have parents come to me and say, I don't know what to do with him or her. And sometimes that's the truth. I'm hearing the truth from parents. And so I want to be able to offer as many solutions as I can, resources here at the school that parents can use to help their students, whether students are challenged with getting up to come to school, attendance, or some students may be challenged with motivation. They don't want to. That's a big deal today. And often parents come and are looking for those answers, and I try my best along with the team to give them the resources that they need. Students, sometimes the challenge with students is one and the same. Sometimes I have students who really believe they can't do it. And that's really hard because I know through my experience as a young student that if you believe in yourself and you work hard, you can be successful. But getting students to really understand that intrinsically is tough because some students feel like they can't do any better than what they're doing. And I know that they can. And so those are the three challenges of each of those groups, because you do have to differentiate. There really isn't one any harder than the other. They're all unique in their own way.
Very difficult, I assume. How do you facilitate the distinct standards of the TPSS school board and while still trying to keep PHS as a whole unique?
Yes, very good question. So our Tangipahoa Parish School Board members, we have 2 new members here for Ponchatoula, and then we have an existing member. And I will tell you that all 3 of those board members came to meet with me. They came to meet with me to ask me, what does Ponchatoula need? Not what does the district need, what does Ponchatoula need? Because we are unique, just us as a high school, not because we're the biggest school in the district, but because we're Ponchatoula High School, we're unique in itself. And so I am thrilled that our board members will reach down to us here at the school level to ask that question, to tour the building, to come to athletic events, to be a guest speaker on different panels, and to also serve at the school board level. In my past experience, school board members didn't necessarily do that. School board members functioned at the school board level, went to the school board meetings, and that was it. So it's not my experience in my past that school board members would actually come to your school during the school day to be involved, to make sure that they're informed. And so we are unique in Tangipahoa, in my opinion, in that board members are really a part of our system. But our board members are charged to make policy for all of our schools. Sometimes the policy is very blanketed, and sometimes principals have autonomy to adjust the guideline based on our population of our school. I'll give you an example of that. The cell phone policy is one. I know in the past the cell phone policy was no cell phones, and I know that that came from the voting of our school board members at one point. But when the school board gave us the autonomy to adjust that policy, I spoke with our current student council representatives, meaning here at the school. I spoke with some teachers, I spoke with the admin team, and then we adjusted those guidelines to fit us, which is what needed to happen for us, our kids here at the school, which is, of course, the green and red zone.
Yes,
use your phone in the green
we
zone.
love that, by the
You can't
way.
use your phone in the red zone. I love that. I'll tell you why I love that. Because phones are part of our society. They're part of our world. Some children you guys don't have phones just because you want to call someone.
Of course.
Or because you want to play on your phone a game. A lot of students have phones that are given to them from parents for safety reasons, and rightfully so. I mean, if I took a poll of how many homes had landlines, I bet the data would be very low because a landline is like something in the olden day when I was growing up. And so, so you guys have phones for not only enjoyment, but for also safety reasons. So in changing with the time, I felt that policy needed to change here at the school.
Thank you, by the way, because
Yeah.
it does help,
I'm excited to hear that.
and it's very great for us. What have been some of the most challenging or rewarding aspects of that experience?
Of
From the question that he asked you, I think.
about the policy at the school board, what's challenging? One thing that's challenging, I know, so it's policy, we'll talk about uniform, because believe it or not, I read the Panorama survey data from students, that's anonymous, and I'm actually working with the faculty and staff tomorrow to review that data, to look and see what's working and what's not working, not only quantitatively, but qualitatively. And so I'm able to read the responses and try to figure out trends, and dress code seems to be on your mind.
It's the
It
sweaters.
surely
And
is.
so I plan to discuss that, reveal that tomorrow with the faculty and staff, and then figure out our game plan. So
Or fingers crossed.
one inconsistency that I've found that's rather challenging, I'll just say, is school skirts. Okay, so skirts, I believe in the policy manual, indicate to the knee,
Yeah.
right? In trying to find a skirt to your knee is very challenging, because I've done that as well, and so
you're too tall, you're too short.
yeah, so that's challenging, and so I do understand the need for the policy, because appropriateness here at school is a priority,
It's a must. Yeah.
is a must, and so, but we have to make sure that the policies that are in place are actually doable, that parents can find skirts of the knee length to be able to have their children honor that guideline that the school board has set forth for us. So those kinds of things are challenging.
Yeah, I'm sure the school board is often no nonsense. Also, Joshua from YouTube says, "Are the school culture in New Orleans different from Ponchatoula, and how?"
Kids are kids, I will say that, and every time I go and people ask me, tell me about Ponchatoula, I'll say we're 2,000 kids, and my kids are like everybody else's kids. We have kids that are in dual enrollment and advanced placement and honors. We have a whole bunch of kids that are taking regular programmed classes in terms of being a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. We have some children who are struggling because of motivational or anxiety, or maybe a split home, those types of things. So we have a whole plethora of good average children, just like everybody else has. So there's no real difference in the type of kid that you have. The scores sometimes are different. The level of certified teachers that you find in the schools are different. Here, we have very experienced seasoned teachers, I call them, here at Ponchatoula. You have, Miss Mauer and Miss Miller, who've been here forever. You have Miss Dufresh, who's been here for 40-something plus years in education. And so you have very experienced teachers here at Ponchatoula, whereas on the South Shore, I've had teachers who are not as experienced.
Rebecca asks, your use of data to game plans sounds exciting. How do you get this data?
Oh, okay. We have data that we use here at the school level almost on a daily basis, definitely on a weekly basis. So I use the LEAP data. Of course, I'll look at students by grade level as they score within the achievement band. So achievement bands for LEAP are, of course, Advanced Mastery, Basic Approaching, and UNSAT. So we analyze that by grade level, and then we drill down to individual students, and we also drill down to subgroups. So we have African American subgroups, we have special education subgroups, we have English language learner subgroups. Those are students who don't speak English as a first language. And we look to see how successful the subgroups are. So if the subgroups are not successful as we think they should be, then we pay attention to that and we action plan. I'll give you an example. Last year we had about 25 limited English proficient students here at the school. This year we have 50. So because of that double in number, we hired an ESL teacher here that assists the non-English speaking students, not only in their classes, but outside of their classes. And so that's a new position that we added based on the need of the students. And that need came from the data. So that's a little bit about academic data, but we do have panorama data, the surveys that parents, faculty, students, staff, and parents fill out. I would like to take this opportunity to let everyone know, all of our listeners, that here at Ponchatoula, we use that data very seriously. So to try to get folks, everyone involved, to answer the surveys as honestly as they can is a priority for us, because we are using the data that comes into us to adjust what we're doing to make Ponchatoula the best place it can be. So I just want to plug that when we ask for a survey to be completed, please take your time and answer it as honestly as you can, because we are looking at that data and we're using it to adjust what we're doing here at the school.
Because the data regulates chains, and you need that sometimes.
Absolutely.
Do you enjoy having to sift through all that data every day, every week?
Yes, data does not lie. I will tell you that. So I meet with the instructional leadership team once a week. That's about 25 teachers and administrators. We analyze data in terms of not only LEAP data, but we also look at end of quarter data. I'll say that example. Each teacher fills out the Google Doc of the number of students that have A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's, and we're able to track the kids that need assistance and how we're going to give them assistance in order for them to be successful. And then the students that have D's but then maybe scored advanced on LEAP, then that's a conversation with those specific students. So we do meet very, very frequently regarding that. We also meet and identify students who have social and emotional needs that could potentially benefit from further counseling. We did do that with some interns that we have from Southeastern, and we identified 200 plus kids that could benefit from additional counseling. So we're getting that counseling for them based on that need. So data is very important.
Of course, of course. Drifting away from less serious topics, what is your favorite restaurant?
Well, I'm a Mexican food eater. And so actually there's a Mexican restaurant that I go to who has a family member of one of our students that, he works there, the student comes here, and every time I see him, I just wave and I think to myself, I gotta get that kid and tell him this is my favorite restaurant. But, I get here and the day gets fast moving and I forget, but I need to do that.
What's your favorite holiday?
My favorite holiday, I love Christmas, but I love Halloween actually, not in the religious type of way, but just the fun way for kids. And so, of course, I have containers of Halloween decorations, and on Halloween, I set up outside, typically of my sister's neighborhood or my mom's neighborhood, because we live on a main street.
You set up everybody's house.
And I've been doing this since before my son was born. He's 28, and it's just fun and exciting. And I send pictures to him, and I sit out there and give candy to the kids, and we have fun with that.
Love Halloween. So for the last question for now, what do you see next for PHS as a whole?
I know that we can continue to grow. I know that being consistent with what we're doing makes a difference. I'm not saying being consistent is easy, because it's not, but being consistent in what we do every day makes a difference for us. I know that we will continue to work to grow all of our students so that they can graduate with options, as I talked about in the beginning of the presentation. And the way to do that, the way to do that is to make sure that students are getting certifications. Even if you're going to college, you can get a certification. You can put that on your resume, and you can get a better paying job while you're in college. If you're not going to college, get the certification, get experience in what you want to do out in the real world while you're here in high school. That is a priority for me. There are so many students that graduate high school in a field in college in a field, and then they don't like the job because they didn't experience it. This year we actually brought to life our internship program, where seniors can be placed into a job where they desire to work in that field to gain experience, just to make sure that's something that they want to do. So I can see us moving in that direction of connecting what you'll do in your life outside of high school and bringing that more into high school, so we're making informed decisions.
Building a better future for all the students. I love that.
Well, that is the ending. Thank you, Dr. Caminita, for being here. We had a blast. Thank you for everyone for watching. Stay tuned for next week's episode. We will be interviewing our senior class president, Justin Winder. We hope to have you guys with us, and thank you for watching.
Thank you. Yay.
Were you trying to stop me? I don't know. In the
we
corner of my eye
finished?
looked like he was doing